Alright, bodies. As most of you, I'm sure, already know, I was bitten by a copperhead snake, pet viper, or are they just a viper, in holes, on July the 15th. I've had many people asking what I did for the snake bite and kind of the symptoms and what all I went through. So, disclaimer, I'm not a health practitioner. I'm a health professional and as a trainer and as a nutrition guide, but I am not a physician, and I'm not recommending anyone do what I did. You can take from my experience and you can decide if that's right for you or not based upon the information that I give you. That being said, we'll go through kind of the stages of the snake bite and my experience. Before the incident, before I actually got bit by a snake, my brother had been bitten a couple weeks before, maybe almost a month before. And his experience was, so he got bit on the finger. He went to the emergency room and he proceeded to sit in the waiting room for 3 hours, I believe it was. And then they put him in a room and he waited in the room for another 5 hours. And then finally they administered some anti-venom. And the bill ended up being like, aside from what his insurance covered, I think maybe the insurance didn't cover the anti-venom, they just covered like the room fee or whatnot, and I think it ended up costing him $36,000 or $32,000, something like that. So astronomical price. And it's kind of negligent on the hospital's part, because honestly, after the 8 hours, by the time they finally ended up giving him the anti-venom, the venom from the snake bite had already done the damage that it was going to cause, for the most part. I mean, it works over a prolonged period, but the initial damage that the anti-venom would have helped to prevent already had taken its place. And so, honestly, the anti-venom didn't really do anything because it waited too long. If you'll give an anti-venom, it needs to be administered within 2 hours of the bite. If you wait past that point, pretty much it doesn't do any good. So what I did is I had some kerosene on hand, and they call this old housewife remedy. It's supposedly the kerosene pulls the venom out of your body. I had some on hand for this exact purpose, and so that's what I ended up using. How I got bit was, it was dark and I was going out to my car. I was barefoot. I go barefoot all the time. The way the fang marks look, it looks like I stepped on the snake almost and it bit me. And so I walked up and I was opening the door and I felt something hit the back of my foot. And my first thought was I had stepped on a wire or something, or a stick, and it like popped up and hit the back of my leg. And it feels like if you've ever stepped on a rake and it pops up and hits your leg or something, that's what it felt. Just a real sharp, quick hit on the back of the leg. That was my first thought, and that it was a piece of wire or something that I stepped on. And then immediately I knew what it was, and so I screamed for my boyfriend. I was like, oh my gosh, I got bit by a snake. And he was like, are you sure? And I was like, yes. And he kept asking, like, are you sure? Are you sure? And I was like, I know I got bit by a snake. And so he grabbed a light and he saw it under the car and it was like going off. And he was like, well, what do you want to do? You want to go to the hospital or whatever? And I was like, no, like, you know where the kerosene is? Like, go get the kerosene. Or I was like, take me in the house and then let's get the kerosene. He picks me up and he carries me into the house. I was so blessed to have him there. And when it first happened, I like freaked out for just an instant, and then immediately I started telling myself, I was like, just relax, breathe deep. And this is very important, not to freak out and get hyper excited and start freaking out, because increases your heart rate, and that increases the blood circulation throughout your body, and so it can cause more damage to the tissue, and the venom can get into your organs and just spread out through your body much faster because you're freaking out. So I started doing some deep breathing even while he was carrying me, and I was like just telling myself, like, just breathe deep, it's okay, just breathe slow. And I think my boyfriend was freaking out more than I was. We're getting the house, and he put my foot into soak in the kerosene, and I soaked it, I think it was like 3 hours. And during this period I started throwing up. I would say probably took 15, maybe 20 minutes after the bite. I started throwing up, and I threw up all night. I was defecating. Also, thank goodness, we had I was just pretty much sitting on the toilet, and I had a bucket to throw in because I was just like back and forth constantly. My body was trying to cleanse all the toxins out that it could, and one reason I was throwing up is because your body wants to focus on getting that poison out and healing the area, and not have to worry about digesting food. So it was excreting all that food. It was a long night for both of us, and along with the fact that I was kind of experimenting using the kerosene, so I didn't know, what could happen, because snake bites has killed people before, and it can cause organ failure. It's not something to mess around with and take lightly at all. So I was kind of taking a chance. It can cause, I think kidney failure is like one of the main things that it causes. So I was throwing up and very sick for the next 24 plus hours, I would say. And the swelling got pretty bad, but it did not go. So the snake bite happened on my Achilles tendon, right above the top of my calcaneoid. And the swelling swelled up, I'd say about halfway up my calf, so it didn't go all the way up my leg. Whereas my brother, when he'd been bitten on the hand, he swelled all up. My swelling, I would say, was not nearly as bad as his. So I definitely think that the kerosene helped. While I was sick, my boyfriend did some research to find out exactly what's happening with the snake bite. There's a couple stages that it goes through, and the damage that it causes can last up to I don't remember if it's 2 to 6 or 2 to 4 days, and continue to cause damage in the affected area. Initially, what happens is the venom causes hemolytic, I think is how you pronounce it, which pretty much destroys the red blood cells, and it releases toxins into the body, and it causes hemorrhages of the red blood cells, which causes internal bleeding. And these factors in the venom have been shown to cause cellular and subcellular membrane disruption and disintegration, I guess, for lack of a better word. This process, some of the enzymes, I guess you would call it, or the factors in this venom, it demobilizes the snake's prey. It initiates the digestive process for the snake. So when he comes back, the meat, the prey, the victim is already beginning to break down, and it's already starting to digest. So the tissue, the affected area by the snake, this tissue actually starts to break down and be self-destruct, I guess you could say, in a way. It inhibits your body's ability to get platelets and plasma to that area, because it shuts off your body's mechanisms that sends the platelets and plasmas into the area that's been affected that your body's trying to heal. And this produces hypertension and circulatory collapse of the cell walls. And this is caused by factors in the venom which degrades the membrane proteins surrounding the membrane, which causes a collapse of the integrity of the cell wall, leading to muscle necrosis in the area that's been affected by the venom. And how much damage occurs is honestly kind of dependent upon how large of an area. It's kind of dependent upon the person, how excited you get, how much blood the venom gets spread out through the area, and then how fast you can get that venom back out or get it neutralized with anti-venom, whichever method you end up taking. The effects of this venom can cause coagulation issues up to 3 weeks in that area, which is one reason why people have just extensive, unstopped swelling. Which I forgot to mention that another thing that I did was I actually wrapped a shirt around my quad to help constrict the blood flow to that area, and I tried to keep my foot elevated until, of course, whenever I started soaking it in the kerosene, I couldn't elevate it anymore. And then the reason I only soaked it for 3 hours is started feeling like my skin, the kerosene was actually burning the outside of my skin, because kerosene really is not good to have on your body, but this was an emergency situation. So I took my foot, made the executive decision to not leave my foot anymore because I didn't want to cause skin damage from having my foot into the kerosene. Now, going back, if I was going to do something different, I would have gone a step further, and I actually would have put some activated charcoal on the affected area to help continue drawing any of that venom out, but I didn't think of it at the time. So the first 2 days after the bite, I could not eat anything at all, which is good. I think our body, lions and stuff, when they get sick, they don't eat until they start feeling better, and fasting actually helps your body to regenerate its cells. Something I would have done differently, though, is coming back right after the snake bite, I would have started drinking collagen bone broth and whey protein to give my body the nutrients it needed to actually start healing the tissue in that area. So I did not do this until after I ruptured my Achilles tendon, which I ended up being able to heal without surgery by drinking this collagen bone broth. The main mistake I made is I did not give my body the attention and the time it needed to heal from the snake bite. One thing I would highly, highly recommend is the venom kills a lot of that tissue, and your body's ability to get circulation into that area. And where I got bit on the Achilles tendon does not have good circulation in the first place. So pretty much it was just like it's a dead area, and I would recommend massaging. Something I wish I would have done is to massage that area to help get blood flow and circulation back into the tissue area to help facilitate healing. So 1, start drinking bone broth as soon as possible, collagen bone broth, and then 2, massage the area, and 3, don't push getting back on it. You definitely want to get some mobility into it, like do some ankle rotations and flexion point, but don't rush walking, or driving. It was on my right foot, so I rushed driving, believe, and because I did not allow the snake bite to heal properly, all the way, fully, I ended up rupturing my Achilles tendon. If I had just given it a few more weeks to heal, I probably never would have ruptured my Achilles tendon. And before I ruptured the Achilles tendon, the area by the snake bite, the Achilles, was starting to feel really tender, and it had been feeling great. And I was telling my boyfriend, I was like, it's weird because I feel like it was healing really fast, and then now all of a sudden, like, it hurts, it's real painful when I touch it and everything now again. And so I think it was because I was starting to get some macro tears from walking too much on it too soon and then driving. So don't rush the healing process, and just because it starts feeling better, be like, yay, I'm going to go run around and chase my dog, or I'm going to go drive 4 hours, or wherever the bike might be, it could be in your hand, I'm going to go start writing essays, or not. If you're in college, still having to do that. So don't rush the process. I can't emphasize that enough. Make sure you massage the area. Get blood flow, blood circulation into it. Be cognizant and aware of what's going on. Listen to your body. If it's not feeling right, then take it easy. Slow down. Don't rush it. Make sure you're feeding your body the nutrients that it needs. Don't be going out and eating high inflammatory foods or empty foods, or sugars, or anything like that, because none of that is going to help with the healing process. And that tissue is having to be rebuilt. So if you're not giving your body good nutrients, then it's not going to be able to rebuild the tissue with integrity, with healthy tissue, because you're giving it subpar nutrients, subpar proteins, to rebuild that tissue with. Your body has to go through, it has to break down the dead tissue and then rebuild it with new. So it's quite a process, and it's amazing that our body is capable of doing this. So in closing, just keep in mind that when you get bit by a snake, it's a multi-stage process of the venom acts on your body, and just consider what your body has to go through to heal it, and don't rush the process, and give your body the nutrients it needs. I hope this video was a bit insightful for you. If you do have a snake bite, what you can do, some steps you can take, and just know that you're not alone. It's pretty common, and your body is capable of healing it, so don't freak out. Just give yourself some time to rest